When the third eye opens for real, the very way you see the world begins to change. What once felt solid, unquestioned, and permanent starts to reveal itself as shifting, fragile, and often deceptive. The truth is, much of what you see with your physical eyes is filtered through layers of conditioning, fear, and desire. You do not see life as it is, you see it as your mind has learned to interpret it. But when that inner vision awakens, those filters begin to fall away. The illusions that once controlled you start to dissolve, and what is left is clarity. Clarity is not always comfortable. To see beyond illusion means to confront truths you may have been avoiding. It means recognizing the masks people wear, the false stories you have told yourself, and the patterns you have been repeating without awareness. This can be unsettling at first because illusions often feel safer than truth. They provide comfort, even if it is temporary. But when your third eye opens, that comfort can no longer hold you. You are drawn toward what is real, no matter how raw it may appear. This clarity does not only apply to the world outside, but also to yourself. Suddenly, you begin to see your own mind more clearly. You notice how thoughts rise and fall, how emotions come and go, how desires push and pull you. Instead of being lost inside them, you observe them. You realize you are not the thought, not the emotion, not even the identity you have built. You are the awareness behind them. This recognition alone rewires the brain in powerful ways, because once you know you are not your thoughts, they no longer control you in the same way. When the illusions fall, what remains is simplicity. You see that much of the stress, the worry, the endless pursuit of more was born from misunderstanding. You chased shadows, believing they were substance. Now, with inner sight, you begin to value what is lasting: presence, truth, connection, and freedom. This is why people who have experienced the awakening of the third eye often appear calmer, lighter, and more grounded. They are no longer fooled by appearances, and so they live with less fear. But this clarity is not something to fear. It is a gift. To see truth is to walk with freedom. To see beyond illusion is to live without being manipulated by desire or fear. The world does not become easier, but it becomes clearer, and clarity gives you power. Power to choose wisely. Power to act from truth instead of confusion. Power to walk a path that feels aligned with who you truly are. When your third eye opens, you no longer live half asleep in the fog of illusion. You live awake, aware, and connected to what is real. That is the beginning of true transformation, clarity beyond illusion. When the third eye opens, you begin to sense life in ways that go far beyond what the five senses can capture. You start to recognize that reality is not just physical objects, sounds, and sights, but also the invisible currents of energy that surround and flow through everything. This awareness is subtle at first, like a whisper at the edge of your perception. You may feel a shift in the atmosphere of a room, notice the heaviness or lightness in someone's presence, or sense that certain places calm you while others drain you. These are not coincidences, they are glimpses into the energetic fabric of existence. The Shaolin masters understood this long ago. They trained not only the body and the mind, but also their sensitivity to energy. To them, life was not divided into seen and unseen. It was one continuous field, and to navigate it skillfully required awareness beyond the obvious. When your third eye opens, this same awareness begins to unfold within you. Suddenly, you can feel the truth behind words. You can sense the intention behind actions. You become more attuned to the energy others carry, whether it is peaceful or chaotic, authentic or deceptive. This shift changes the way you interact with people. Instead of being easily swayed by appearances or words, you learn to trust your deeper perception. If someone's energy feels unsettled, you recognize it even if they are smiling. If someone carries sincerity, you feel it before they even speak. This sensitivity allows you to move through life with greater wisdom because you are no longer blind to the undercurrents shaping every moment. The same awareness applies inward as well. You begin to sense your own energy in ways you may never have noticed before. You realize that your thoughts are not just mental noise, but vibrations that influence your state of being. You recognize how your breath, posture, and even the food you eat affect the flow of energy within you. This awareness gives you the power to realign yourself when you feel imbalanced. Instead of being trapped in moods or fatigue, you learn to adjust your energy with intention. It is important to understand that this sensitivity is not a burden. Some fear that being aware of energies will make them overwhelmed, but when guided by discipline, it becomes a strength. You develop the ability to notice without being consumed, to feel without being destabilized. This is what true awareness brings, not fragility but resilience. When your third eye opens, the world expands beyond surfaces. You realize that life is constantly vibrating, constantly exchanging, constantly alive in ways the physical eyes cannot see. You are no longer just living in the visible world. You are walking within the unseen as well. This is the deepened vision that transforms how you experience existence. Heightened awareness of energy. When the third eye opens, something profound begins to shift inside you. The noise of the outside world starts to lose its power, and an inner calm begins to take root. Life has always been chaotic. There will always be demands, distractions, conflicts, and uncertainties. But when you awaken this inner vision, you no longer find yourself constantly pulled and shaken by those external forces. Instead, you begin to experience a quiet strength, a stillness that cannot be disturbed so easily. This calmness is not about escaping the world or avoiding challenges. It is about seeing through them. When your perception deepens, you realize that much of the chaos is created by the mind itself, by its endless judgments, fears, and attachments. You notice how often you become stressed, not because of the event itself, but because of the story you tell yourself about it. With the third eye open, you begin to step outside of those stories. You watch them arise, but you are no longer trapped inside them. This distance creates freedom, and freedom creates calm. Balance follows naturally. You are no longer thrown to extremes by every success or failure, every gain or loss. Where once your happiness depended on everything going your way, now it begins to rest on something deeper and more stable. You discover a center within yourself that does not move, even when life around you does. And from that center, decisions become clearer, actions more grounded, and emotions less consuming. Imagine living with this balance in daily life. Arguments no longer drain you the same way because you can see beyond the heat of the moment. Setbacks no longer paralyze you because you understand they are temporary. Even the highs of life, praise, achievement, recognition, no longer intoxicate you as they once did because you know they too are fleeting. This does not mean you stop feeling. It means you start feeling from a place of stability rather than attachment. You remain steady in the storm. The Shaolin monks trained for this exact state. Their practices of meditation, movement, and discipline were all designed to bring the mind into balance. They understood that true power is not found in control over others, but in mastery of the self. And mastery of the self begins with calmness. Without it, you are a leaf in the wind. With it, you are the mountain the wind moves around. When your third eye opens, you are gifted with this inner stability. It does not mean challenges disappear, but it means you face them differently. You are no longer reactive, no longer consumed by the drama of every passing event. You become anchored, steady, and able to act from clarity rather than confusion. And that calm presence changes not only you but everyone around you. Inner calm and balance. When the third eye opens, one of the most striking changes is the sharpening of intuition. It feels as though a new compass has been activated within you, a silent guide that directs your steps with a precision logic alone cannot match. Intuition is not guessing, nor is it imagination. It is a deep sense that arises from within, a knowing that has no need for lengthy reasoning. And when the third eye awakens, that knowing becomes stronger, clearer, and harder to ignore. Throughout life, you have always had flashes of intuition, times when you felt that something was right or wrong before you had any evidence, moments when you sensed someone's intentions or foresaw how a situation would unfold. But for most people, these signals are faint, often drowned out by the louder voice of doubt or overthinking. The difference when the third eye opens is that these signals become steady. The voice of intuition grows louder, and with practice, you learn to trust it. Trust is the key. In the beginning, you may hesitate. Your mind will argue, demanding proof, demanding logic. Yet, over time, you begin to see that this inner guidance often leads you to the right place, even when the reasoning is unclear. It is not that logic becomes useless, logic still has its role. But intuition adds a dimension that logic cannot provide. It connects you to a deeper intelligence, one that perceives beyond the limits of time and space. This heightened intuition changes the way you make decisions. Instead of constantly debating, worrying, or doubting, you begin to act with greater confidence. The right choices come more naturally, not because they are easy, but because you sense their alignment with your path. You feel when something resonates, when it carries truth, and when it does not. And when you follow this sense, life begins to flow with more harmony. You find yourself in the right places, meeting the right people, at the right times, not through chance, but through alignment. The Shaolin spoke of this inner compass as a form of wisdom that cannot be taught, only uncovered. They believed that intuition was the language of the soul, and when the third eye opened, this language became fluent. To them, ignoring intuition was like turning away from your own teacher. And so they trained not only the body and mind, but also this deeper sense of awareness. When you live guided by intuition, you stop walking blindly. You stop stumbling in darkness, hoping logic alone will carry you through. Instead, you walk with a subtle light inside you, one that illuminates your path step by step. It may not show you the whole road, but it shows you enough to move forward with trust. And that trust transforms everything. Intensified intuition. When the third eye opens, one of the most profound shifts you experience is the release of attachment. You begin to see how tightly you have been clinging to people, possessions, beliefs, and even identities, and you realize how much suffering those attachments have caused. For most of your life, you may have believed that happiness depends on holding on to relationships, to achievements, to approval, to material things. But with deeper vision, you come to understand that everything you cling to is temporary, and because it is temporary, clinging always leads to pain. This does not mean you stop loving or stop caring. It means you stop chaining yourself to what is impermanent. You begin to enjoy things without trying to own them, to appreciate people without trying to control them, to experience life without needing it to conform to your expectations. There is a freedom in this shift, a lightness that comes when you no longer carry the weight of constant attachment. Imagine how many hours of your life have been consumed by fear of losing what you hold on to. Fear of losing status, fear of losing security, fear of losing love. That fear often drives your choices, shaping your life more than you realize. But when your third eye opens, you start to see that the fear itself is an illusion. Nothing in this world is truly yours to keep, not even your own body. The only thing you ever really have is this moment. With this realization, fear weakens, and in its place comes peace. This release also changes the way you view yourself. You begin to let go of rigid identities, the labels, roles, and stories you have told yourself about who you are. You see that you are not defined by your successes or failures, not limited by the opinions of others. You are more fluid, more expansive, more free than any identity can capture. In this freedom, you no longer feel the need to defend yourself constantly or prove yourself endlessly. You simply live, authentic and unbound. The Shaolin understood this truth well. Their discipline was not about becoming more attached to the world, but about freeing themselves from it. They trained their minds to remain steady whether they had much or little, whether they were praised or criticized, whether they succeeded or failed. They found strength in detachment, not weakness, because it gave them mastery over themselves. When you let go, you do not lose life, you gain it. You experience things more fully because you are not grasping at them. You love more deeply because you are not afraid of losing. You live more freely because you are no longer bound by what comes and goes. This is the gift of the third eye, the freedom that comes when attachment no longer rules you. Release of attachment. When the third eye opens, It is not only an awakening, it is a responsibility. Many people think of this awakening as some kind of special power, a way to see what others cannot. But the truth is deeper. Awareness always carries weight. When you begin to see life with greater clarity, when you sense energy more vividly, when your intuition sharpens and attachments loosen, you cannot pretend to be blind anymore. What you know demands that you live differently. This responsibility is not about becoming perfect or above others. It is about integrity. Once you see through illusion, you cannot go back to chasing it as though it were real. Once you recognize the energy you carry, you cannot ignore how it affects others. Once you understand the impermanence of life, you cannot live as though everything will last forever. Awareness brings choice, and choice brings accountability. To live with an awakened vision is to live consciously, knowing that your actions ripple outward into the world. It also means walking with humility. The opening of the third eye is not the final step, but the beginning of a deeper journey. It does not make you superior, it makes you more responsible. Because you see what others may not, you are called to act with compassion instead of judgment, with discipline instead of indulgence. You begin to realize that awakening is not for your benefit alone. It is for the way you serve, the way you guide, the way you bring peace into a world that often lives in chaos. The Shaolin understood this deeply. For them, awareness without discipline was dangerous. That is why their training was so rigorous, why they combined wisdom with responsibility. They knew that seeing the truth without the strength to live it could lead to arrogance or misuse. And so they taught that the higher the vision, the greater the discipline required. The third eye may open the door to clarity, but it is self-mastery that allows you to walk through it with balance. This responsibility also asks you to be patient. You may sense more, understand more, feel more, but it takes time to integrate that into your life. It takes practice to live by what you see rather than falling back into old habits. The world will continue to pull you into distraction, but your awareness becomes the reminder to stay aligned. Every choice becomes an opportunity to honor the clarity you have been given. To carry this responsibility is not a burden, but a gift. It gives life direction. It ensures that your awakening does not fade into empty words, but becomes a way of living that inspires others. It is the difference between knowing and embodying, between seeing and walking the path. Responsibility of awareness.